Well, for years now, we have been hearing all about that buzzword in and around various NBA circles. You know the one. It has permeated and infiltrated nearly every front office, staffed now with various nerds obsessed with analytics and a collection of acronyms, all made up with the end goal design of enhancing and promoting efficiency. There has been a net trickle-down effect in the way we view superstars now and how efficient they are. But while it makes sense to compare and contrast the efficiencies of peers within the NBA who played in concurrent eras, it remains outright impossible to adequately gauge the level of efficiency of one player versus another who played in eras that do not line up, particularly the players that resided in the NBA during the time frame of 1995 to 2013, the unequivocal and undeniable dead ball era of the NBA, where pace of play, spacing, and overall scoring were at historic and unprecedented low points. Anyone who played most of or all of their primes during that span of time will unquestionably look far less efficient than players who played literally any time before or after. And for some reason, there is primarily one player most penalized, with his legacy being impugned for his perceived lack of efficiency. Yes, the selfish shot chucker Kobe Bryant, who is now most recently being dragged for his poor shooting performances in the finals. But what if I were to tell you that Dirk Nowitzki, who is routinely celebrated as having one of the great playoff runs and finals performances ever in 2011, shot just 41% in the six-game finals series against the Miami Heat? Because efficiency and field goal percentage wasn't the be-all end-all back then when real defense was being played. Further, if Dirk was worried about all of that nonsense, he likely would have been too afraid to take all of those difficult shots in clutch time, and he would have lost the series. Like someone else we all know who also participated in that same series on the other side, such as when LeBron scored 8 points in an entire game in which he played 45 minutes of. Or like how LeBron scored exactly 0 clutch time points for the entire 6 games combined. After all, you can't miss shots if you don't take them. But how about when the big fundamental Tim Duncan shot just 42% in the 7-game final series in 2005? Or how about the fact Michael Jordan shot only 41% in the 1996 NBA Finals against the Supersonics on the heels of a 72-10 regular season? Oh, the Last Dance final series in 1998 against the Utah Jazz? Yep, also only 42% for his airness in that one. And that magical Game 6 finale, arguably the greatest individual game ever played, with all things considered and factored in, yeah, just 15 of 35 from the field. But see, nobody cares. For Kobe, though, of course, it all matters. But as always, that is because many just simply aren't taking into account the context. And for that, you have to go back to the 1995-96 league year, the aforementioned one where the Bulls set the all-time record for wins in a regular season, going 72-10, and Michael Jordan would win his 4th league MVP and 4th NBA championship to go along with the historic regular season win total. But something else very prominent happened that season, as for the first time since 1956, league-wide scoring averages dipped below 100 points for a full NBA season, the first time in nearly 40 years to that point, and the only time in post-merger modern NBA history beginning in 1976. From that year and running all the way to 1990, averages held right around the 110 point per game threshold, until that is the early 90s, and that sharp drop off in scoring would only ratchet up for the next decade of the 2000s, when scoring would hit historical low points, peaking in the 2003-2004 season when league-wide scoring bottomed out at just 93.4 points per game. And as a response, the league decided they needed to start litigating out defense in an attempt to elevate scoring back up. And in 2004, hand checking was removed. Still though, the players that were already in the league during the early to mid 2000s had already been instilled with the mindsets to defend and defend aggressively despite what the rules changes around them at the time were. So while scoring would see an immediate and drastic uptick from 93 points to 97 in just one season, league-wide averages as a whole would remain in the 90s over the next 10 years that would follow from 2004 to 2013. But starting that year, the league broke back over 100 points per game, and every year that has followed since, over the last now 12 years, pace, spacing, and overall scoring have been exploding, until here we are sitting at 114 points per game for the last 3 seasons now, which is the most since 1967. Smack dab in an era that has spanned over a decade now, where scoring, efficiency, and stats just continue to rise. Look at the eruption in 60-point games currently. From the 1970 season and running all the way until 2013, there were only 22 total 60-plus point games. That's 22 in 43 years. And in the 11-year span running from 2014 until today, there have now been 37. And the same is true about all stats across the board. You can even go further back for this triple-double stat. From 1950 to 2014, that would be 64 years, there were 27 seasons where a player recorded 10 or more triple-doubles. Not 27 different players, as some did it multiple times, just 27 total seasons with a player recording a minimum of 10 in one league year. And again, that was in 64 years. Now, in the 11-year span, running from just 2014 to last season, there have now been 36 such seasons. There is simply no denying that things have changed today, and things really were drastically different from any other time otherwise in the window of 1995 to 2013. I mean, look at just LeBron James. For the first 9 years of his career, while playing in the time frame of 2003 to 2012, he was shooting just 48% from the field, despite shooting a substantial amount of his shots from 5 feet and into the basket. So even while taking a high level of efficient shots, he still failed to break 50% shooting percentage. In the last now 13 years that followed, James is shooting 53% from the field, a 5% increase basically from one decade to the next is significant. Hell, let's even take a look at the real GOAT, Michael Jordan, who shot a meaty 52% from the field for the first 9 years of his career, running from 1984 to 1993. But in the final 6 seasons of his career, from 1995 to 2003, Jordan's shooting percentages dipped 6 percentage points to just 46% over that span of time. Are you starting to see a trend here? Now imagine a player who had to play their entire career over that span of time. Kobe Bryant was drafted in 1996 and ruptured his Achilles in 2013, effectively ending his career. And every player that played the vast majority of their primes in that span have been punished when compared to any players who were lucky enough to play significant chunks of their prime outside of it. So when you're wondering why Kobe's efficiency metrics look so bad, the answer is because all of the players during that time looked bad. There are 3 total players ranked inside of the top 30 on the all-time player efficiency rating scale that played the vast majority of their primes within the range of 1995 to 2013. Those three players are Shaquille O'Neal, Tim Duncan, and Kobe Bryant. I mean, obviously Anthony Davis isn't a greater player than Tim Duncan, but his PER is higher, just like Karl Anthony Towns is higher than Kevin Garnett and Dirk Nowitzki. In fact, there are 13 players ranked in the top 30 all-time in PER that have played most of their primes in this era. They're not necessarily better players, they're just playing in different, more efficient times. Now, if you want to compare them against each other, well, that is totally fair. Looking at Nikola Jokic's absurdity in being the #1 ranked player ever in PER by a significant margin, about a full point and a half better than LeBron, well, if you want to make the case with all of the surrounding resume points Jokic has constructed in this era that he is the best player of this post-2010 timeframe, well, that is a totally valid case. Comparing him, though, to the likes of Tim Duncan is as lopsided and nonsensical as comparing Will Chamberlain's stats to any other modern-era NBA players. But as always, most of the hot take talking points require nothing more than a bit of context, which is where I come in. So if you guys did enjoy this video, perhaps you would like to see a breakdown of who the true king of the clutch really is. And as always, guys, please do make sure you are subscribed with notifications turned on for more from me. Until next time.